You're on the Six Screens Telenetwork, earning the reputation of giving all the right ingredients, uninhibited, in exposing the hard, cold facts about the Watchtower Society.
Well, it's so good to see so many people coming into the Six Screens tonight. And as I said earlier on our show, when it gets cold outside, more and more people come in to warm up right here on the Six Screens Telenetwork. Well, my name is Rick Farron. I'm coming to you from the apostate capital of the world, right up here in Boston. And I'm so glad that we have all these people coming in, as I say. And friends, more people right now leaving the Watchtower. It's unbelievable. I have to tell you, I've been monitoring here. We've got about 14 different programs right now running on the Six Screens Telenetwork, and I have to tell you, we've been doing these programs now for many, many years, upwards of 20 years. And what I wanted to just say is, I have never seen such an influx, such a big amount of people in just a couple of weeks' time that are now coming into the Six Screens. I don't know what happened. I have no idea. Well, I do have a couple of ideas. One of the ideas is something's going on in the Watchtower. Many, many people are really packing the bags. Maybe they'll wait until near the end of the year to say, hey, that's it. I'm leaving. But let me tell you something. As I monitor some of our programs, our Sunday programs have always lagged behind. I tell you that. But all of a sudden, our Sunday programs have doubled with the amount of viewers coming in on Sunday. Now, that is something to really be boastful about. I've been doing these programs for many, many years. I never missed a Saturday night. I'm not saying that in a braggadocious way, but I am here because you are here. And, many people look at the Six Screens as like a giant therapy session where we can all come together and talk about our trek in the Watchtower organization. Boy, I'll tell you what, we all have a story to tell, don't we? Well, I'm really glad to also announce tonight that I'm going to show you a picture. I'm going to show you a picture of our new studio. Yeah, now the first of the year. I got a new studio in my place of business. We've been working on that now for the last few months. So come the first of the year, right after maybe the first week in January, we're not going to be broadcasting Saturday night from the new studio. We're going to be right here in this one. But during the week, what I'm going to do, there's so much news coming out about Jehovah's Witnesses as of late that I want to jump right on in my workplace and let you know it's going to be a 5-minute news break, no more than that. Because let's face it, people don't have a lot of time. Now, these programs we do on Saturday night, some of them last for 4 or 5 hours. And I thank the people wanting to come in. We're going to continue on Saturday night as well. But I'm going to show you a little clip here. Hold on one second. I'm going to show you just a little clip, give you a little idea of, there it is. That's the backdrop right there. See that there? It says ex-Jehovah's Witness 5-minute news brief. Now, take a look at that picture. That is a man and a woman standing on top of the earth. And they got chains that they're breaking away from. So what do you think those chains are? Well, that represents the Watchtower. So our JW World News news brief in the ex-witness world is going to take place beginning in January, the first week. And you'll see me coming on sometimes once a day, sometimes twice a day, sometimes a couple times a week. And any new breaks, any new news, alerts that we hear in the Watchtower, we're going to bring them to you from our studio in Lowell, Massachusetts. And boy, it really is nice. And you'll see what I'm talking about when we go live beginning in January. So we're looking forward to that. So by all means, stay with us. Now, you won't be able to comment. You won't be able to call up like you do on our Saturday night programs. But we will give you the news. We'll give you all the news you need on what's going on behind the curtains of the Watchtower. All right, so let's pull that one out. And let me get back over here and see what else we got going on. Well, I also want to do this. I'm going to play you an AI video. We have a number of artists that work for us in my sign company. And my daughter, Jamie, I'm not bragging about her, but I got to tell you something. She's really, really good. She really knows how to work the AI video, the video clips and how to make it all work. So I'm going to show you another one here tonight before the program ends. I'm going to show you Russell on a train in Pampa, Texas. And he died, of course, on Halloween night. And then, of course, he wanted to be dressed up in a Roman toga. Now, that's an actual fact, friends. I'm not just elaborating, trying to get some ratings here. Yes, indeed. I mean, most of you people know it anyways. But I'm going to show you a video. And what we're doing with the 6 screens of the Watchtower website is we're really updating it and trying to bring it more into the future. I mean, we lagged behind for many years, but now we're finally starting to put it together. So you're going to see some real improvements on the 6 screens of the Watchtower website. And we're going to put our videos up there. Now, this is our third one. Our first video, maybe some of you guys have saw it out there. It had to do with Russell calling himself a jellyfish. Yeah, he couldn't keep his hands off other women. And then we did one on Johannes Grieber. And these are only video clips. They only last about a minute and a half, 2 minutes. And our newest one I'm going to show you tonight. I haven't even put it up on YouTube yet. I haven't put it up on Facebook. I wanted you guys here on the 6 screens to see it first. And this one's all about Russell on the train in Pampa, Texas. So by all means, stay with us. You'll see that. Friends, Christmas week. I hope you all had a good Christmas. I know not everyone celebrates it, but for those that did, and for those that even didn't, I hope you had a joyous time anyways. It's Christmas time. I don't have to tell you that. I mean, you see the lights, you see the TV programs, the commercials. It's all about Christmas. Now, what does that mean for all of the Jehovah's Witnesses out there that are listening in? Well, we have come to grips with something that's very good, at least in the way I look at it. Many of the kingdom halls are very empty right now. Yes, in fact, you might have noticed that too. When you were going to the kingdom halls, when you were a full-fledged witness, the meeting attendance kind of dropped off around Christmas week, right? And New Year's. Who wants to go to a meeting when you can have a little bit of time out like the rest of the world? So the Jehovah's Witness meetings, according to the information that I got coming in to the 6 screens, the meetings are empty. But lo and behold, the churches of Christendom, they are full. Yeah, you noticed that. Have you driven by a church on Christmas Day or Christmas Eve? You can't even find a parking spot. But I'll tell you what, there's plenty of spots at the Jehovah's Witness Kingdom Halls. So, friends, what I'm trying to do is draw an analogy here. They're empty. That is, the Kingdom Halls are empty. But the churches of Christendom, they are full. But what do you think that's all about? You would think that the Jehovah's Witnesses, being the zealous people they're supposed to be, would fly to the meetings on meeting night around Christmas to show the world that they're the only ones that have the truth. They're the only ones that really understand the true meaning of Christmas. There is no meaning in the ideas and the ideals of the witnesses. Well, let's face it, friends. There definitely is a difficult time around this time of year for the Jehovah's Witnesses. Hardly anybody, according to some of the things I've been getting information on here this week, a lot of the people have been telling me that PMOs, that there's nobody showing up at the Kingdom Halls. Only the ultra PMEs, those that are physically in, mentally in, loyally in, they're showing up. And, the rest of the people, really, did you want to be with your friends around Christmas time? Even though you didn't celebrate Christmas, you still had a desire to be with your friends. I did. I used to try to be with as many friends as I could around Christmas time. My relatives, my sisters, even though they were full-fledged witnesses, but we'd get together around Christmas time, right around Christmas Day, you could say, and we'd meet and talk And, we didn't celebrate Christmas, but it was a chance for us really just to get together as a family. Now, what's the matter with that? But, also many times I didn't meet and I would take the group out on Christmas Day. You want to talk about a dreadful experience. Did you ever go out on Christmas Day witnessing? Oh my goodness, that was tough hauling. That was a tough job to do. You're knocking on doors all over the neighborhood, and especially I can remember I'm working house to house on Christmas Day. I led the group that day, so I got the whole group, putting them in different neighborhoods. We only had about 6, 7 people out. Sometimes we had 14, 15, 20 people on a regular day, but on Christmas Day, who wants to go out on Christmas Day? But anyways, I can remember walking down the street and who I see all these cars in a driveway. You really don't feel like knocking on the door with all these people, visitors, relatives, friends. I mean, you feel like the third monkey on Noah's Ark. You're not gonna, you're not gonna really be. You're an uninvited guest knocking on a householder's door on Christmas Day. That was a tough job, but I remember doing it, and for the most part, people were pretty friendly. But in the back of my mind, I got thinking, these people are pagans. They are celebrating a pagan day. And you couldn't come out and tell them that on Christmas Day, but that's what runs through the mind of the Jehovah's Witnesses. And what was even worse during Christmas week for the Jehovah's Witnesses is if you had an assembly, a circuit assembly on Christmas Day. Did you ever have that? I believe I did when I look back. Yeah. Who wants to go to a circuit assembly on Christmas Day when the rest of the world is relaxing, sitting back and just enjoying life? You couldn't enjoy life as one of Jehovah's Witnesses. How could you? So, it's just a tough thing when the circuit assemblies would work out on a weekend that would have it around Christmas. Ah, that was terrible. Uh, well, I wanted to talk about that tonight because I don't know what you guys are doing out there this week yourself for Christmas, but everyone around Christmas time, you want a little downtime, right? Who wouldn't? You're working all the time. You've got things that are going on in your life that could be, major issues. But here's a time around the holidays, around Christmas, New Year's, that you can relax. You can chill out, so to speak. You can kick back and just watch a movie, and because everything else slows down. Everything else slows down. So it gives you a chance to slow down. But the word I'm getting in here at the six screens, and we have people, this is like a news clearinghouse. And I want to thank everyone that sends me news. Every day I get people writing me on Facebook, emailing me, texting me, Rick, speak about this on the news. But I got something in the last couple of days I wanted to share with you. And a person gave me some info that I could totally connect with. And it has to do with the meetings being more depressing lately. And that's true. Yeah, this person who's a PMO gave me this information that in their hall, this is so depressing. People aren't commenting like they were. It's very dry. The surrounding, there's no enthusiasm. The meetings aren't lively. Of course, I don't ever remember the meetings being too lively to begin with. But boy, from what I understand now, they're really getting bad. And then service. They always used to push service. Who's going to go out after the meeting on Sunday? You coming out in service with us? Who's going to meet here Saturday? Who's going out in service? Remember how they used to really push the house to house service work when you guys were in and myself? Well, now it almost appears, according to what I'm learning here, it almost appears like the service is optional. It's only if you want to go out. Can you imagine that? Well, why didn't they make service for us optional when we were in it? It would have been a lot easier. No, the Jehovah's Witnesses, they're losing their everlasting zeal. Yeah. I'm wondering when did this all happen? Well, I'm thinking maybe a lot of people woke up during COVID, right? I'm sure they did. But now, even after COVID, post COVID, it seems to be getting worse. It seems like more and more people are, are leaving the Watchtower. Did someone want to say something? Hold on 1 second. Someone's trying to chime in. They got YouTube on in the background. Let me just see who that is. Yeah, if you would, if you're gonna come on, you gotta take and turn the YouTube off. Is that you, King of Dots? You want to say something? Go ahead.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
know when it all started happening. Well, I told you I had a Christmas poem. Are you ready?
Go ahead.
It's called Lump It or Leave It. That magic year would come and go with the biggest lump of coal of all, as Santa's reindeer dumped them from hall to hall, spreading a season of empty cheer. No Christmas here, no new system anywhere. That magic year came and went, and a paradise full of coal was all we'd get. Yes, 1975 was the most wonderful year of them all. We sold all our possessions for their pearls of wisdom. We ditched our homes just to rent one. We moved to where the need was great and started to let our lives vegetate. After all, the end was near, and we would feel like Christmas was in the air, because after Armageddon, with all those empty homes, they would let us choose one of our own. We ruined our lives for 1975, and we were told to be happy about our lump of coal, the biggest lump of coal since Russell's 1914 invisible debacle. Ah, yes. Are you feeling that old black magic in the air? They are definitely going to be dropping coal this year. Them reindeer, and more than ever before. Now they call it black gold in them old Warwick Hills, the place that gets all the Jameson thrills, planning for future festivities and wishing us all a good night as they sit on their coal mine of truths that are black and wonderful to all who have hindsight. So come along, Donner and Blitzen. It's time to end another year with more coal droppings. A gift from Jehovah's 9 Grinchy elves, who never forget the most wonderful year of them all, 1975, which is every year now. Ho, ho, ho.
Well, now those Grinchy elves, would that be the governing body you're referring to?
I can't keep up with the number. Is it more than that? I mean,
Yeah, well, right now there's, I believe there's 10 or 11, but that's okay. When you said the Grinchy elves, I automatically shifted to the governing body, unless you're referring to
I
elf.
missed the show. I missed a lot. It was when it's 3, then it's 5, it's 7. It's kind of like amoeba, and they kind of look like amoebas when you look at them. Don't you? Haven't you noticed that?
I have, yeah.
They just keep subdividing, Rick.
Well, I'll tell you.
I just want to say, you asked that question. When did it all start? I think this is the 50-year evolution of the end from them predicting the end in 1975. Because when I came in 1976, it seemed like people were miserable. And more than half of them left. Their kids who might have stayed, they were miserable too. I think it's just the cascading of the years of constant predictions. The ends here, the ends here, the ends here. The people can only take that so long till they finally figure out it's a scam.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. It's these guys, but they're good at it, King of Dots. They're very good at it. They keep telling.
They're bad at it now. They're getting bad at it now, though, Rick. People are seeing through it. They're just not going to be able to keep this up much longer. Every year is 1975. What does it say? What is the scripture that expectation postponed makes the heart sick? And that's what they keep doing to people. In fact, they're probably even getting physically ill. from having to have this stress on them that every day could be the last day.
Well, you're right. Even as I was just reading the information that came to me this week on Kingdom Hall, a brother's going to. He's a PMO, but he says there's no enthusiasm. And, there used to be a little more enthusiasm years ago, but it's waning. And I mentioned maybe because of COVID, things started going downhill. But I think one of the reasons today why there's no enthusiasm, you just said it. These people are stressed. These Jehovah's Witnesses are stressed with the rising cost of living. It's made people focus on the real things in life, the real important things in life, like taking care of your family and paying your rent. This dream of Armageddon and the world's going to be beautiful. And as you mentioned in your poem, you're going to pick out a beautiful house. That's all baloney. And the witnesses are waking up, King of Dodson, and understanding that.
Well, thank you for letting me do my poem. And I'm just glad I was able to stay up this late because you know what? I don't know how you do it, Rick. You're just a late person. Do you do this every night? Are you up like this late every night? I need to know that.
Oh, no. I just do this on Saturday night. But I mean, I got to prepare. I got to prepare for the news. I can't come on here and go, blah, 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 blah. I got to have some info. So I spent some time doing that. But what I've been doing, King of Dots, is we've been working on these AI videos. And AI is going to change the world. I mean, you hear it all the time. You see it all the time on Facebook, YouTube. But it's going to change everything. And what you can do with AI is amazing. And I'm going to show a video tonight sometime of a brand new AI video we got. And this is going to really help so many Jehovah's Witnesses leave. Because I'm going to tell you what, people think in pitches, they remember in pitches, and they're moved to action in pitches. And that's what I believe some of these AI videos are doing. And there's other people doing them too on YouTube. And it's really, well, I tell you what, we put a video last week of Johannes Grieber. And I got a person, I believe it was a witness, and they said that really rocked their boat. It's helping them really understand how wrong the Watchtower is, and they never saw this before. For all of us people that have been out for a while, we know about the United Nations. We know about Johannes Grieber. We know about the winged disc. We know about the Roman toga and all of that stuff. I mean, Beth Sarim, United Nations. This is all like old news to us. But think about it. This is new news to people just leaving. And
well, you mentioned the church is filling up. My wife has joined a church, non-denominational. My daughter, who inactive, they tried this fellowship for 25 years, and she's joined a church. It's unbelievable what's going on here. Remember, Rick, and this is what no tubesters have brought out. I've been waiting for them. I keep giving them the hint. One of the major prophecies when I came in at 76, 77, was that the waters of Babylon the Great would dry up. And of course, they believed that it was all the other religions, right? Well, guess what? The exact opposite is happening now, currently.
Oh, that's why that's why they're not getting into any more prophecies or anything. It's very plain.
They've blown every prophecy they've done. They've blown them all.
Well, you're right.
You think they'd be rocking some prophecies about now with all the global events? They don't have that. They got nothing.
Christmas time.
Well,
yeah, they blew them all. Okay, I'll let y'all go. Thank you.
Well, you're welcome. Thank you, King and Dud.
I have to say, and they won't get 2 cents from me. No church is going to get 2 cents from Pixie. But this new Pope Leo, from a showbiz writing perspective, the man is telegenic. He can speak. He was on the cover of Vogue, and he sings to his people at the beginning and at the end. I think he's going to be the best guy they've had, and he's young enough to have the job for years.
Hey, Pixie, it's funny you say that because I'll tell you, well, there was a man who was on the local news the other day here in Boston. A man from Boston went over there to Rome, to Vatican City. And he was there with the Pope, came riding by in the Pope mobile. So the Pope stopped and started talking to some people in the crowd. So this man from Boston, who's on local news, like I say, he talked to the Pope like a regular guy. The Pope was the Pope asked him where he's from. He said Boston, and the Pope loves the Chicago White Sox. I didn't know that, but the man started talking about Boston, and he says evidently the Pope asked him if he liked the Red Sox up here in Boston, and so the man from Boston said, "Why don't you come to Boston?" He says, "We have the White Sox. It's going to be like the All-Star game or something coming up in Boston in 2026." So the Pope says, I might do that. I mean, he talked like a regular Joe. And isn't that better than the popes of past, Pixie?
Well, he looks great on camera, and again, he was literally on the cover of Vogue magazine. That's never happened before.
No. Well, let's.
He can sing. He truly is the musician, and he was singing his liturgy to his people in a perfect tone. But he doesn't present himself as a star. He kind of downplays, and he's really good for what they're doing.
Well, I'll tell you what. There's a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses that have left the organization and became Catholic. Did you know that, Pixie?
No, but I can see why they would now.
There's a lot. In fact, yeah. I mean, I'm not going to become one, but right now there's a spiritual revival. And like King of Dots just said, that his daughter and his wife have joined a church. There's plenty of people doing that right now, especially the young ones. For some reason, I don't know, I don't see any earth-shattering events out there that are making young ones turn to be more spiritual. But I think that, things go around and come around again. I think basically what people are really looking at in the world right now is it's a too much of a two-class structure. The big guys have won the game, and what do the little guys get? What does a little guy get today? Guy goes to work, works his butt off. Geez, how's he going to buy a house at $600,000? It can't happen. So what we have is a two-class tier here. We got those that really are doing well, and then those that aren't. And what that's doing is people are losing hope. So the only hope they have, and it's a good thing. No, nobody can condemn hope. And so the hope they have is, I'm going to draw closer to God, and he's going to comfort me. And I believe that's why it's happening. But I'm not.
That could be a good thing for communities. And the pendulum has swung. We've got the fourth turning. We have an 80-year cycle. This generation that is the youngest now, they're going to be more conservative because there's 4 different groups on this fourth turning. We're coming into a conservative of the very, very young. They're going to grow up and be very different than my generation. It's come back around.
You got it. Well, thank you, Pixie. Thank you.
And I just want to say that the governing body, again, continues to be my opinion. I don't think they picked the most telegenic brothers. There's a lot of handsome brothers, even some of the older ones. And the last time I saw David Splain on there, I couldn't even look at him. I just can't. I'm done.
Well,
for 2026, I'm done.
Well, let me tell you something. There's a lot of people leaving the organization right now, Pixie, and that's one of the reasons why they're leaving. They're seeing the governing body up front and close. They're saying, what? That these guys are anointed? That they're being fed from Jehovah God? Splain, really?
They don't look well. They don't look vibrant. And some very, very old people still have a twinkle in their eye of the wonder of their youth, and they're kind, and you can see a certain kind of beauty as people age that's different. It's not a Vogue magazine kind of beauty. Those guys, they have to know that they are making martyrs. They have to know that children are being harmed. They have that Wednesday meeting. They need to be held responsible someday.
Well, they do. You're absolutely right. But I'll tell you, that's one of the reasons, like I say, people seeing the governing body, it's turning people off. And there's a lot of reasons. I got this week, people giving me information why they're leaving. the Kingdom Halls. And then one person gave me the information. He says he gets tired of hearing the Watchtower all the time saying that we're growing by leaps and bounds. When he looks around the Kingdom Halls, nothing but empty seats. So, it's all a bunch of malarkey. Go ahead, Donald. Yep.
Hey, Rick, this is Jesse in Yuma. Can I
Oh, yeah.
add to a little bit what?
Yeah, go ahead.
A little bit what Pixie said, and maybe she can dissect it too. But I think besides the governing body being ugly and visible, ugly in a spiritual and an intellectual sense. I don't know about physically. I won't go there. But I think their message on jw.org is very ugly and dumb. I don't know other word to explain it, but let me give you why I say that. If you look at the news on Christmas and the festive holidays of the Western civilization, you see that there's an attack in Germany. You see there's attack by atheist forces, by the Islamist forces, and like in Germany, the burning of the Christmas tree at a public square, and in the United States, they're trying to ban in different cities the Christmas, the nativity scene, and just a total disrespect for traditions of Western civilization that have been around for thousands of years. And the Jehovah's Witness, if you go to jw.org, they sound the same. They use the same words and the same taglines that communists, Democrats, or atheists, or Islamists or Marxists say. So they line up. They line up with all the forces of Christianity, and yet they call themselves a Christian. So there is a strong intellectual disconnect in the Jehovah's Witnesses. They line up with forces that are aligned against the traditions of Western civilization. I think that has a lot to do with it too.
Oh, I'm sure it does. I'm sure it does, Jesse. I mean, how long have you been on now, Jesse?
On that, I've been on that maybe since I was 3 years old.
All right, so you got it early, but you still have this fascination about it, like we all do, an obsession. You want to try to let people know how bad this organization is. But I'm glad you got out early. But right now, go ahead.
Go to jw.org. I invite everybody to go to jw.org. They have a picture of Jesus, a drawing of Jesus, and he looks like a Jehovah's Witness ministerial servant. I mean, this is why I'm telling you that they have a mental and an intellectual disconnect. He's got a beard like a ministerial servant. He doesn't look nothing like a Middle Eastern 2000 Palestine resident of 2,000 years ago. They're trying to rewrite history, even in their drawings.
In their film, the Jesus and John combo, when Jesus gets baptized, it's like they're gym buddies. To me, it was offensive. And I'm not even a person that attends regularly anything. I mean, I've studied all the myths and legends of the world. I've talked about this before. As you mentioned, it's an affront to the culture of the West. It's an affront to our community and our story. It insults the Middle East, and they've taken anything miraculous out of the Jesus characterization. If you're going to have Christianity as a religion, you should keep the miracles in there. Otherwise, you're over here with me and Tom Jefferson, and you cut the miracles out of the Bible.
Well, this is one of the reasons why so many people are leaving right now. Another person gave me information this week on why he left. Him and his family, they've had enough of it. And one of the thoughts was expressed that the Watchtower is treating them like children. They got this dumbed down way of teaching. They're making it, trying to be so simple, even like Jesse says, showing Jesus looking like a white man from America. That's nuts. He didn't look like that.
Simple faith. I think the Pope and his group have been around forever, and they can, within Catholicism, it can be as simple as it needs to be, or it can be like my late sweetie that was an attorney and spoke Latin and read Latin. It can be as scholarly as it needs to be.
There you go.
I'm going to give the Pope a point.
All right, take a little rest now, Pixie, so I can finish up with the news here, and we'll get you back. All right, I got a lot here to talk about, so I got to move through it. So what I'm seeing here is many Jehovah's Witnesses are leaving right now for various reasons. And one thing too, when we mentioned even last week, I want to bring it up again. Jehovah's Witnesses, they make the claim that they are the happiest people on earth. That is really getting under the skin of many Jehovah's Witnesses. They're living in a neighborhood where they see that they can't keep up with the Joneses. Their houses need painting, their lawns need care, they're falling behind, they can't make the money to even do the necessary repairs. So, how is that being happy? And they see all their neighbors having a good time in life because they're doing good at work and making a good living. The witnesses aren't. So they're really getting sick and tired of hearing, aren't Jehovah's Witnesses the happiest people on the planet? That is getting to people. Jehovah's Witnesses, they miss out on so many great things in life. I mean, I can name a few right off the top of my head. Close families. Do you really have a close family when you're one of Jehovah's Witnesses? Even though the whole family is Jehovah's Witnesses, but I wouldn't say it's close. And you never really get lasting friendships as one of Jehovah's Witnesses. You think of now, you guys, all you guys that are out, look at all the friends you had. Look at all the friends you had when you were a witness. You left, that's it. You're cut off. But, if you had people that were just worldly friends, they'd still be your friends. And then also Jehovah's Witnesses, I think they're missing out, and I have to really stress this more than anything, on personal freedom. You don't have personal freedom as one of Jehovah's Witnesses. In fact, you don't even have good mental health. The garbage they put in your head, the way they educate you, the way they discourage fulfilling careers, the way they discourage financial stability, celebrations, traditions, etc. I mean, how can you be a happy person when you one of Jehovah's Witnesses? Jehovah's Witnesses miss out because they follow the endless rules of the governing body. Close families that encourage the success of each other is a good thing, isn't it? I mean, when was the last time you were encouraged in the witness world? Now, you might have maybe you wanted to go to school after high school. You wanted to go to college. Were you ever encouraged to do that? I wasn't. I remember when I left high school, I always had a desire to be a broadcaster. I wanted to be in broadcasting. I wanted to be a disc jockey. But boy, could I, when the witnesses found out I was going to broadcasting school, they nearly had a hissy fit. I mean, really, did you get any encouragement from the witnesses? No. But see, by having real friends in the world, you would get encouragement. They'd pat you on the back. If you were good at football or baseball, or maybe a young lady was excellent as an actress or a ballerina or a dancer, you would never get any encouragement from the Watchtower. How could you ever go on and succeed in life? When you're a kid, you need a close family, or you need friends that'll encourage the success of each other. That's what the real world does. That's what you're supposed to do as a human being. Lasting friendship with the diverse and loving people that are surrounding you. That's what you're looking for. That's what I look for right now in the world I am now in, that I left the Watchtower. I'm looking for lasting friendships. I have them here on the 6 screens. I have so many friends that I've come to know right here in our little network, and they're loving people. They're nice people. And I'm surrounded by some of the best people on the planet. So I really do appreciate all of our friends here on the 6 screens. Personal freedom. Oh, that is an amazing thing, to make important decisions without feeling guilty, without having fear and guilt or negative influence from others. I mean, how many times when you were a witness did you try to make an important decision? So you go to one of your Jehovah's Witness brothers and sisters. Brother, I've got 4 children now. I got another one on the way, and I'm thinking about buying a new house. Well, what do you think about that, Brother Elder? Oh, Brother Ferrin, buying a new house? Well, Armageddon's right around the corner. That would be like rearranging the furniture on the Titanic. It's going down. Why would you want to buy a new house? You know what I'm talking about. This is what these guys do to you. They're a negative influence. Hey, listen, you need a negative influence like you need a hole in the head, right? Who wants to have negative? That's all you got. Think back. I want you to sit back now and just think. When's the last? Think back of being a Jehovah's Witness, or maybe you're even one right now listening in. When was the last time you got a word of encouragement? Oh, well, they might have said you did a good job on your talk. Or they might have said, gee, Brother Farron, I really liked working with you in the door-to-door work. But when's the last time you got a really sincere word of encouragement? Gee, Brother Farron, that's really good that you started your own business. You're never going to hear that. You're never going to hear anything that would encourage you in the world of the Jehovah's Witnesses. I mean that sincerely. And I'm sure all of you guys feel the same way. Oh, it's just, well, I mean, we all have stories to tell, right? But let's see what else is going on behind the curtains of the Watchtower. And there's always something going on. You know, oh, did you see Stephen Lett in the last week or so? Well, he did a video on jw.org. And again, they're asking people to be submissive, be obedient, even if you don't understand the direction that from a human standpoint that's coming from the governing body. Now, we've discussed this. Now, this is about the fifth time in the last 10 years that they're really pushing and stressing this idea of be obedient, be submissive, even if you don't understand what the Watchtower governing body members are saying. If it doesn't make sense from a human standpoint, just believe it anyways. I mean, do they really think that all Jehovah's Witnesses are stupid? Well, I'm coming to realize that no, not all Jehovah's Witnesses are stupid. That they're not. That's why so many picking up and packing their bags. They can't take it anymore. So this is exactly where I begin to think that the Watchtower is a bunch of crap. It's a bunch of baloney. You're giving illogical instructions. Would you want to take illogical instructions from anybody? Yeah, I mean, you'd want to take it from a real pro, from a person that knows what they're talking about. So, I don't know, friends. If you're listening in, and we do get active Jehovah's Witnesses listening into the 6 grains, I have to really say this. You wake up and smell the coffee. You know, the simple litmus test. And don't be afraid to do it. Look it up online. Search it. Put it into AI, Chat GPT. Talk to let yourself know at least what's going on in the real world of Jehovah's Witnesses. Don't hide it. Don't say it's all made up by a bunch of apostates. That's crazy. Well, you all been watching the news. I mean, I must have seen Jeffrey Epstein 20 times this week alone. Of course, we know who he is. The sexual predator, sexual pervert. Call him what you want. I mean, he's a bad person, evil person. We've seen him all over the news this week. But, you know, it really, I get thinking today, it really ticks me off that here they are really exposing Jeffrey Epstein for who he was, the wicked, evil man he was, and doing the things he did to young girls. It hurt these girls the rest of their life. And yet I'm looking at the Watchtower just kind of walking out the back door on all of this. Now, here they bring Epstein up all week long. Why don't they bring the Watchtower up? Is someone putting a kibosh to this? I mean, the Watchtower, I'm sure, has more cases of sexual perversion in it than the Jeffrey Epstein files, but yet the Watchtower just walks right out the back door and doesn't seem to be questioned. People just ignore it. I really wish that all of a sudden the news media could turn on the Watchtower. What stops it? Friends, I really have to tell you the truth and how I feel about this whole thing. I really feel the Watchtower has connections with people in high places. I know you'll agree with me on that. Why is it that this isn't more publicized? This organization is terrible. They're being sued all over the place. We got one suit now going on for over $100 million. That's just one suit. And yet these guys just kind of walk around like there's no problem. But I'm going to tell you something. The Jehovah's Witness organization, Watchtower, is 100 times worse than the level of Epstein. And I'm going to tell you why. First of all, Epstein never really said he was a Christian man on all the files I saw on him. But the Watchtower says they are. They say that they're a Christian organization. Now, if you're a Christian organization and you know what's in your files, you know of all the perversion, don't you think that you'd step forward and say, look, this is the right thing to do? We're Christians, and we're going to step forward, and we're going to put an end to this. We're going to at least let the people know we're sorry this happened, and we're going to find out who these predators are in the congregations and nail them and send them to jail. It's not happening. It's not happening at all. It's far worse than Jeffrey Epstein. And they claim to know better. They claim to be the only truth on the planet, but they will never admit that there's child sex abuse in their midst, and they will never try to resolve that. And I'll tell you what, doesn't that disturb you? Doesn't that disturb you? Well, it disturbs me. Well, I'm glad you're with us. You're on JW World News. That's the news the Watchtower doesn't want us talking about, but we talk about it every Saturday night and every other Sunday right here on our network. Boy, I'll tell you, there's so many things. Someone want to say something? Go ahead.
Hey, Rick, just a quick thought.
Yeah.
If you are a pedophile and you really looking for children, no better place to go than a congregation of Jehovah's Witnesses. No better place, because if you found out, they're going to keep it a secret. But it's easy to become a ministerial servant, and it's very, very easy to be an elder. You don't have to be college educated. You don't have to have 30 years in the organization. You know, if you play your cards right, you can be an elder in 7 or 8 years. And then once you become an elder or a ministerial servant, you are super respected. They never would think that an elder or ministerial servant could be a pedophile, and they count on that. That organization is full of pedophiles that are elders and ministerial servants. Thank you, Rick.
Well, thank you, Dick. Always good to hear from you. And as a matter of fact, I know the congregation that you ran up here in Lowell, Massachusetts. It's the next city over from where I live. I remember one time there was 5 pedophiles in the Lowell, the Highland congregation. 5 pedophiles. All right. Okay, we got 312. We got Chicago. Come on, Stefan.
Hey, Brother Farron, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can. Yep.
I just had a question for you. Last week, you talked about a elder in Nicaragua, I believe, that was saying that all the elders in that country were being summoned to a meeting, and that he thought that perhaps they were going to dismiss the midweek meeting as part of a pilot program. I was just wondering if you had any update on that.
No. As a matter of fact, that meeting hasn't taken place yet. That meeting is going to take place, I believe, the day before the 1st of January. So we'll hear maybe by next week. We'll have some information on that. Yep. So he'll give me more information, and hopefully I can share that with you. Yep.
Awesome. Thanks.
Oh, you're very welcome. Well, that's Stefan out there in Chicago. Boy, I have to tell you something, folks. It's really refreshing to see so many people leaving the Watchtower. And I know we beat this to death many times, and we talk about it. PMOs. Now, that's an acronym, just for those people who never heard it. A PMO is a person, a Jehovah's Witness, that's physically in, but mentally out. Well, what does that mean? That means they're going to the meetings, they're going out in service in a perfunctory way. They don't really want to, but they know what would happen if they stepped out. Now, right now, it's been estimated, I believe it, I'm not just trying to sensationalize it, but I believe that half of the Jehovah's Witness organization does not believe the teachings of the Watchtower. Now, how can I make such a statement? Well, I can make such a statement. You know, the CIA, it's very hard for them sometimes to gather intelligence. So they have to get little pieces at a time and put the pieces of the puzzle together. Well, that's exactly what we all have to do. And here at the Six Screens, we're putting pieces of the puzzle together. Now, why is it that there's so many right now? If you go on YouTube, punch in, Jehovah's Witnesses, you will not believe the amount of videos that come up. The video creators that are ex Jehovah's Witnesses, hundreds of videos, day in, day out, new ones coming up all the time. All these people are getting out and they're sharing thoughts. Then people writing into the Six Screens and giving me information that their whole family's coming out. I get emails all the time on, we're leaving. My father left. I'm leaving. This is all good news. So I don't think it's a stretch of anyone's imagination to think that there's over 4 million PMOs right now. Now, the governing body knows it. Oh, the governing body knows it. And the reason why they know it is because of the Watchtower articles. Like I say, the CIA has to pick up little bits of information that can be very instrumental in gathering facts. So by the Watchtower articles saying, don't even listen to people who are Jehovah's Witnesses anymore. They're even saying, unless they're a loyal witness, don't even discuss things with them, because they know darn well there's PMOs in the congregation. But I want to get back here to Stephen Lett. Before we move on too far here, I want to go back to Stephen Lett and talking about the fact that even though it's not sensible, you still have to believe it. If it's illogical, you still have to believe it. I want to play a clip. Let me play a clip from Stephen Lett, because you're going to find this very, very fascinating on what he says again. But this is a recording just recently, last couple of weeks. So let me just get this up so you can see it. I just got to, let's see, share my screen here. Share screen. I want you to see this. Being told to even obey the governing body, even though it's illogical. This is Stephen Lett, governing body member of the Jehovah's Witnesses. Let's play him right now so you can get an idea what's being said here. Let's get the sound up. Let's get the screen up, and let's play it.
Obedient will move us to obey and be submissive, even if we don't understand, even if the direction doesn't seem to make sense to us from a human standpoint. But we'll remember this pattern of being obedient, that Jehovah often does direct the unexpected to be done. He often directs something that doesn't make sense from a human standpoint, especially in times of deliverance and judgment. Jehovah often uses a shock and awe, doesn't he? So our pattern of being obedient, we'll go ahead and be obedient.
Well, what is that all about? How can one possibly go along with statements like that from a governing body member, especially Stephen Lett? This is like, friends, if you, yes.
Hey, Rick, this is Donald here. I got a question. I wonder what kind of things that might be coming up that they're expecting these people to do that they feel might not make sense. I've been racking my brain on that, trying to figure out what would they tell them to do that wouldn't make sense, that they need to follow.
Well, have you taken? It's a good question. I think about that too, Donald. And I have you could go down a rabbit hole here because you can come up with so many answers. But I really believe what the Watchtower is doing, and many things have got me to think this. I believe that there's a controlled demolition going on right now. I believe that the organization has run its course. I believe that, that they know that these lawsuits are going to strangle them. I believe they know that, people are finding out who they are because of AI and the internet. I also believe that there's too many people that have really ruined their lives. And in the November, I'm going to tell you that November article in the study Watchtower saying that, to all of these people that were looking so forward to the new system in their lifetime, and in November Watchtower, they said that more than likely it won't come in your lifetime. That is really shattering the belief system of many of these people, and that's going to move them to the exit door. So I mean, that's kind of illogical. Some of the things that they're saying that's illogical right there. I would look at that November. Go ahead.
They're going to tell them go somewhere or do something, or I've heard that off and on, about following them, even though if it doesn't make sense even to a human standpoint. But I wonder, every time they say that, I kind of wonder, what is it that they could say that you would have to obey that wouldn't make sense? I mean, would they say, sell your house and go to the hills, or what? Stuff like that. What? I just wonder what they're leading, because they must be leading to something on this. I don't know what, but
Well, what I think, Donald, I mean, it's good we all have imaginations, but I'll tell you what some of the people, because we've talked about this numerous times here on the Six Screens, but I'll tell you what some of the people shared with me. Now, I don't think they're going to pull a James Jones here, a Jim Jones, in Guyana. I don't believe that you're going to telling people to take the Kool-Aid and die. I don't think it's going to be that drastic. But I wouldn't. Now, some of the people who called into the program here in the last couple of years, and they thought it might have something to do with money. So some have thought that perhaps the governing body is going to more or less say that, this whole system's going down. You really don't need the money if you have in savings accounts, if you have in the stock market. It might be good if you could give us money. Now, I'm not a real. I'm not saying that's what I'm not saying that. That's what some people have said. Some people thought there would be like a Kool-Aid event, but I don't see that either, Donald. No. Well, maybe let's put. Yes.
Yeah, Rick. They had at the convention 2 years ago, they had a deal where they showed the King Halls being closed down, and then everybody got in the car, got their go bags, and they went someplace, and it was speculated that the governing body was going to come out and say, sell your homes or get the equity out of your house, sell your car, and go to some FEMA camp somewhere out in the desert of, I don't know, California or something. And Jehovah will take care of you, just as he took care of Moses and all the Israelites that left Egypt. And they're going to sell their homes and they're going to give the money to the Watchtower. And that's a very distinct possibility. My gut tells me that that's just what they're going to do, but it's just an opinion. Thanks, Rick.
Well, it's a good opinion, Dick. And I'll tell you what, I do remember that video clip, and the witnesses were told, just go. And some of the witnesses were reluctant, but the elders were saying, please go, follow the governing body's instructions. So they went to this FEMA camp, wherever it was, like you say. But the one thing that I'll tell you, sometimes we've talked about this many times before. What the Watchtower does is they tell you before they tell you. They tell you while they're telling you, and they tell you what they told you. So in that video, I remember there was a contribution box attached to a tree. So I'm thinking, geez, here's all these poor witnesses. They left their house to go to somewhere the governing body told them to go, and they get there, and what's the Watchtower do? Puts out a contribution box. So they're kind of telling you ahead of time, we want the money. We want the money. I don't know. I'm just speculating. Yeah.
Rick, remember that video? It showed, them all jumping in a car and they're driving off into the sunset. And there is the Holy Spirit over them. There's a big dove flying its wings, and it puts in an idea in somebody's head, subliminal, that this is what you're supposed to do. You go to where Jehovah's organization tells you to go. You're going to be with your brothers, and Armageddon's going to come, and a big safety net is going to be around you and all the other Jehovah's Witnesses that obeyed the governing body by selling their houses and giving the money to the Watchtower. And the Watchtower is going to set up a SEMA camp or something like that. But I really do think that's in the wind. Thank you, Rick.
Well, thank you, Dick. Now, it's an interesting. Yes, sir. Go ahead. What would you like to say?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. This is Marty. Did you want to say something first?
Well, yeah. In fact, I was just going to say that how do you really the statement, and let's just examine the statement that Stephen Lett made, and the same statement has been made 4 or 5 times at least in the last 10 years, that you're going to hear something that sounds illogical from a human standpoint. I don't like that statement at all. I don't like hearing illogical things. When I hear something that's hold on, Marty. When I hear something when I hear something that's illogical, why would I want to touch it with a 10-foot pole? But here the governing body is saying you're going to hear it, but just accept it. What do you think, Marty?
Yeah, I agree. I've been looking at this thing for a long time. I've been out since 1990, and I find a lot of parallels between the real world and Jehovah's Witness, okay? And if you notice, as time goes on, your little neighborhood becomes bigger and bigger, and then restaurants come in, all this stuff comes in without even voting on it or anything. So what's happening is big business is taking over. And the Watchtower is no different, You look at that video that you put on last week, okay? It shows, again, all the things the organization takes you through, but it keeps going back. If you look, they're targeting the young people for the construction sites and all the things that they need people for to keep their business going. That's all it is. They turn it into a religion and try to play on your guilt and your conscience and all that. But really, it's so easy to see that it's just another one of these corporate scandals that are going on. You ever feel like you're just being marketed all the time?
Well,
Watchtower is no different, Watchtower is no different. People are going to have to find that out, or they're going to stay in it and take the ride or whatever happens for them. We had good times, we had bad times in there, mostly good times, probably, maybe. I hope for most people, and it's not the people or the community, it's the leaders, it's where they're going with this whole thing. I think it's just a big business thing where they got to keep recruiting people. They're going to keep fighting these lawsuits. I don't know how long this thing's going to last, really.
Well, not too long, Marty. Now look, when you were one of Jehovah's Witnesses, Marty, when you went door to door, I'm sure you did. I'm sure you went door to door, and you're probably pretty good at it.
Been here 2 years.
Sure, I can tell you were probably pretty good at it. You got a nice, lively way about you. But now I'm going to ask you.
His brother.
Oh yeah, well, let me ask you this, Marty. Now, when you went door to door, you preach like I preach with a sense of urgency. We were told that the anointed were not going to pass away. Armageddon was going to come. They would not all pass away before it comes. So, they're getting older. So we're thinking, wow, it's right around the corner. Armageddon's here. So when we went out and if you're a salesperson, one thing you learn to sell a product, you have to create a sense of urgency. In other words, you got to buy it now. You got to buy it now because the price is going up. Or you got to buy it now because we're not going to have any left and you won't be able to buy one. So what the witnesses have done, they created this sense of urgency. They told all of us, not that we're all old timers, but they told us that this generation would not pass. We would see the end. We would see the new world, so to speak. Yeah. So now you got a group of people. We got 9 million Jehovah's Witnesses that do not preach with this sense of urgency. The sense of urgency has disappeared. And well, for example, they're trying to make it disappear. They don't bring out the generation anymore. Now, how about, hey, look, I can remember books like the Live Forever book, the Revelation book. That's now ancient history. The Watchtower removed from the Kingdom Hall libraries all of these books, and that they never to be studied again. Why? Because they were false prophecies. And also all the prophetic teachings and the line of preaching prophetically that the Watchtower used is vanished. It's gone. There is not even any studies in the Kingdom Hall about really, if you go to the Kingdom Hall as an active witness today, you're not going to hear anything about prophecy. The whole thing is now do this, do that, don't do this. They're not teaching like they did years ago because all of those prophecies that they told us would come to fulfillment were a bunch of baloney. And consequently, there's no reason to bring it up again because it's just that it's mud in their face, Marty, you know?
Now, if they can get you happy with that, if you're okay with that, and you say, well, we're just going to do whatever the organization does, then they've actually got it better now than they did before because they're over that hurdle now. And all they got to worry about is promoting, getting your young kids to join the construction crew or whatever to keep that going, again, remember I was mentioning before that they call us the publisher and they're the faithful and discreet slave. Well, if you switch that around, they're the publisher, they're the ones publishing the magazines, and we're the faithful and discreet slave going out there and doing wherever they say. But you know what? Even I noticed in the world now, they're not pushing education anymore like they used to. They're pushing labor.
Oh yeah, trade school. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what's going on. And you got to expect some of that because the world's getting bigger and all this. But I'm just saying that Jehovah's Witness doesn't do nothing but fit into that category. Not even in such a unique way anymore. They're like you said. I think they're struggling.
Well, Marty, I'm
so unmodern. They're trying to be modern. It's like, get over it, baby.
Well, I'll tell you, they're changing. But Marty, I'm 78 years old, and I was a young person back in the 1960s and 70s when I was in JW land, and of course that was during Franz's heyday. Franz was the big wheel, and he was the one that came up with all these crazy prophecies, and he really nailed it. We all believe what Fran's prophecies were.
Advertise. The kingdom of God is upon you. Yeah, I've heard a lot of those.
Oh yeah, no, we heard all those prophecies, and now I mean, you're not hearing anything about prophecies. No, nobody's focused on.
Interesting.
Yeah, no, there's no prophecies being taught. The brothers now are more concerned about how long they can have their beards, and the sister about how tight they can wear their slacks. So that's yeah. So
another thing these things do is when they remove your very being, when they take away your very core of your soul and your personality, they rip it off of you. Then what do you got left? You got to chase the person in front of you. Hollywood is the same way. You talk to a lot of these actors, they'll tell you nobody's real. They're just following the next person in front of them.
Oh yeah.
Until they all go up. Whatever happens,
You got it, Marty.
You got to be individual. Yeah.
You got it. Okay, good. Because I'm going to move on because more stories I want to talk about. But thank you for calling in.
Yes, sir,
thank you, Marty. Always good to hear from you, Marty. Thank you very much. Okay. I mean, wouldn't you say that the Watchtower is the modern day equivalent of the boy who cried wolf? Hey, we all know the story, right? I mean, how many times can you say something before people begin to doubt what you're saying? Well, perhaps, I'm not going to get preachy on you here tonight. Perhaps this is why Jesus warned about these type of scam artists. Really? And what did Jesus say? Well, Jesus said, look out that you are not misled, for many will come on the basis of my name saying, I am he. And in due time is near. Do not go after them. And then Jesus says, don't say you weren't one because you were one. So there it is right there. So the Watchtower has lost all credibility with its false predictions. That's why they have to get rid of all of those books. And if you remember a few years, well, not a few years back, but about 10 years ago, there was a directive given to the congregations to remove all of the older publications of the Watchtower and to get rid of them. and send them back to Watchtower. And then Watchtower, from what you understand, took them and burned them all. They don't want. This is evidence. This is hardcore evidence. If you have those publications, that the Watchtower is nothing but false prophets. So it's gone. This idea of a sense of urgency, as we're talking about, for people going out, there's no sense of urgency. There's no prophetic position the Watchtowers put themselves in right now. And, even, yes, Matthew. No, Matthew, that's,
Sorry,
oh, go ahead. Yep,
Maverick.
that's Maverick. Yep.
I didn't want to cut in. I thought you'd finished your thought. I think as well. I want to just say as well, the way they say that statement about from a human standpoint, you've pretty much covered what I wanted to say in a different way. But basically, they're trying to make to convince everyone that you need to just obey blindly whatever nonsense comes out of their mouth and whatever direction they give the rank and file. But I would say what people who are PMOs and PMEs maybe listening in tonight should be closely examining what they're saying not from a human standpoint, but from a spiritual standpoint. Because what they say from a human standpoint shouldn't concern Jehovah's Witnesses. What should concern them, what they're saying from a spiritual direction standpoint, I think. So I really, that's why everybody here and you for many, many years now have said, what PMEs or people who are still in the Watchtower, go and do your research and convince yourself whether these people are actually speaking for God. Do that research yourself. We all say this every week, pretty much in different ways. But that's the only way you're going to know whether their direction is from a human standpoint. All of their direction is from a human standpoint, by the way, because they're not directing anyone from God, from a God's viewpoint or spiritual viewpoint. So we owe it to ourselves. Everyone who's here has done that research, and basically they need to. Everyone who's still in there and is confused about should I listen to their direction or not? Well, you'll know the answer to that when you go and find out who's directing this organization, and it's not the Christ Jesus, as we know, Rick, as you just read the scripture just now. So I just wanted to say that. So examine them from a spiritual standpoint, direction, not the from a human standpoint, and they try to keep saying, I just want to add that.
Oh, well, thank you, Maverick. No, in fact, that makes sense to me from a spiritual standpoint, not from a human standpoint. Yeah, go ahead. You're on with us, sir.
Rick, just a quick thought. I think the audience are going to find this interesting. I have a friend. I've just kind of established a friendship with him. He's a Jehovah's Witness, and he became a Jehovah's Witness 4 or 5 years ago. He's a really nice guy, and he's a Vietnam veteran. So he was starting to talk to me about how Jehovah's Witnesses, he knows I'm a Vietnam veteran. So he started telling me about how Jehovah's Witnesses don't go to war and all this. And so he brought me over a Watchtower magazine featuring that. And I noticed right away, there was no date on the Watchtower. You know how we call it and say, well, the January 23rd, page so-and-so and so. Well, there was no date on the Watchtower. And the first thing I said to him, I said, the Watchtowers that I've seen before always had dates on it. How come this doesn't have a date when it was published? And he just kind of shrugged his shoulders. But the reason is that they're going to lie to you through the pages of the Watchtower. And then if you catch them on it, they're going to say, well, we have new light. That's old light. But it's interesting to note that no dates on Watchtowers now. Thank you, Rick.
Well, I appreciate that information, Dick. Well, it's just, it's all piling up. Look at you can only accept so many things, and that's why there's so many people waking up in the Watchtower right now. That's why it's hemorrhaging. But I got thinking, about this sense of urgency. That's what really motivated me when I went out in service years ago. Is this sense of urgency? I can remember working out. I took it seriously. I really did. I went door to door, and I can remember sometimes the car group was a hot day or cold day, and they say, "Oh, let's stop now." I'd say, "Well, wait a minute. we only got three or four more houses to do in this territory, so let's finish it. I mean, that last house could be the last house that's preached to, and then Armageddon comes. I mean, that's how we all felt about it. But so that sense of urgency, some people say it disappeared during COVID, but I got to tell you, uh, I was, well, everybody knows I was kicked out of Satan's organization back in 2005. That's when I was disfellowshipped. But I can remember even going out in service in 2005. And I can remember the car group. I can remember there was no sense of urgency. Nobody, when you work in a car group and, well, I had a van. We had, 5 or 6 people in there all working the street. And I can remember we'd all come back to the van and would say, well, Brother Zealous, did you place any magazines? No, I didn't do any magazines today. Well, Sister Faithful, did you place it? No, no magazines today. And, we'd ask people that. And I can remember one person saying, one zealous brother, well, Brother Farron, it doesn't really matter how many magazines we place, and nobody's placing too many magazines lately. Now this is 15 years ago that I can remember him saying that. We're not really getting much response. Nobody's even answering the doors back then, and they're not doing it now either. But he said, well, at least we're encouraging one another, right? So I mean, if that's what service has come down to, we're not going to get any new recruits out there. Why even go out? Why even spend the time? What a waste of time going out in service, going to the Jehovah's Witness meetings. Uh, Unbelievable. But this idea too, how can you have a sense of urgency when you see a giant movie studio, video studio, call it what you want, being built up in Ramapo, New York? Now, we got over 1 million square feet. It's on 240 acres of land. It could cost upwards of $500 million. It could cost as much as $500 million to build this complex, and it's not going to be ready till 2028. That's what the Watchtower is telling their people. Now, does that create a sense of urgency? Well, wouldn't you say, if you were one of Jehovah's Witnesses, wait a minute, 2028? Well, it'll be 2 years, right? From another week or so. But, that's 2 years. I mean, what you keep, projecting out in the future, how do you know Armageddon's not going to be here? I mean, you'd hear statements like that before, but the rank and file is just going along with all of this. So there's no sense of urgency. That's why the witnesses are kind of laying loose. That's why they're saying phooey on that. Plus, also the newest teaching that now is taught by the Watchtower. It says that, even if a person comes in at the last minute, well, it's always kind of been that way. They still could be one of Jehovah's Witnesses as long as they came in before the Great Tribulation. But now they're saying that even if you're a Jehovah's Witness and left, you can come back during the Great Tribulation. So that always wasn't the case. The doors were closed before when the Great Tribulation started, just like it was in the days of Noah. I believe they used that for an example, how it started raining and the doors were closed. People couldn't get in. So, all of this stuff changing has created a new generation of Jehovah's Witnesses to the point that they'll believe something even if it's not logical from a human standpoint. Boy, I'll tell you, folks, you really, do you lay in bed at night and think about this stuff? I do. I really do. Sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night. Go ahead, you're on with us. What would you like to say?
I was just thinking also, how do you get a sense of urgency when they're saying that Armageddon is not going to come in your lifetime? That to me completely kills any kind of sense of urgency. I mean, it's like a person saying, hey, you better get ready. Something's going to happen. And you say, oh, when's it going to happen? Oh, a couple hundred years ago. A couple hundred years ago, you immediately just discount that in your mind. So Watchtower is really in a pickle because they have to admit Armageddon isn't coming anytime soon, because everybody can see there's just no reason to believe Armageddon is coming anytime soon. But then at the same token, they've got to try to maintain control, and the way they do that is through fear. So now they've got to flip-flop between trying to generate urgency while at the same time telling you the most obvious, which is Armageddon is not coming at all, or certainly not in your lifetime. And so this is what you get when you have a cult who has been preaching nonsense. They're completely running out of ideas, and it's starting to show. It's catching up with people, and they're starting to just, discount what Watchtower is saying and moving on with life. I wanted to say something else when you were talking about looking at things from a human standpoint. Obviously, there's no other standpoint a human can look at a situation than from a human standpoint. But I remember, and I'm sure you do too, Watchtower used to talk about how we shouldn't live life with conventional wisdom. I remember that phrase, conventional wisdom. And what was conventional wisdom? Well, you'd grow up, you'd go to school, and after school, you try to get some kind of career going, maybe start a business, try to climb the corporate ladder. And they just discourage people from doing that. And now all those people that listened and didn't pay attention to conventional wisdom, they're all paying the price. We've talked about this 1,000,001 times. They're doing very bad as time goes on because they didn't expect to be here. They're here, they're not set up for the future, and now they're suffering. So it's just so sad. Hopefully people see this, wake up, especially the young ones, and there's a lot of them that are coming out, as we've said. I'm on group chats. We got new people coming into the group chats every single week. I'm just getting back in town from Georgia. I was in a hotel and I ran into an ex-witness, and I got a chance to spend a few minutes with her, kind of hearing her story. So people are waking up and they are leaving. They are no longer listening to this organization because they can completely see that they have no idea what they're doing or what they're talking about.
And well, thank you, Stefan, for saying that. And it's got to be really disappointing. When I first found out and I started seeing the flaws in the Watchtower, you really didn't want to see them. You kind of pushed it aside. I mean, you spend a good part of your life giving them your time, your resources, your money, your energy, and you spend a good part of your life doing that. The last thing you want to do is see that you were scammed. I mean, geez, who likes to know they were scammed? Please don't tell me. But, I first saw the United Nations, Johannes Grieber, the child sexual abuse, and I'm kind of pushing it back. I'm pushing it aside. I'm saying, well, I don't know about that. But boy, all you do is a little bit of research, and then one flaw leads to another. And then you say, my goodness, I can't believe it. In fact, I can remember how exciting it was, kind of like having mixed emotions, though, right? That this is not the truth. We've been scammed. And I can remember trying to contact and meet other people of like mind when I was first leaving the Watchtower back in 2005. And then when I talked to people, I didn't realize there's so many people that also had the same feelings I did. And boy, we couldn't stop talking to one another. We would talk for hours all night long, sometimes 6, 7 hours a night. And just every night I'd be talking with people who left the Watchtower and saying, how could they do this to us? But now, of course, after many years, you kind of settle down a little. But there's a lot of people out there right now that are hearing this for the first time. So please don't run away and say, oh, Rick, that's a bunch of baloney. You're really embellishing this. I'm not embellishing. I'm telling you, the Watchtower organization is one of the most dangerous and destructive cults on the planet. Really. And you don't have to take my word for it, but I'm gonna give you another story that kind of solidifies what I'm saying here. Did you hear this week what happened in Australia? They have a movie set over there. Jehovah's Witness Watchtower has a movie set where they're making films about Jesus and other films that they play on jw.org, and they play them at the conventions. But I don't know if you heard what happened this week. I think you did. But there was an actor that flew in from the United States to be in a video the Watchtower was producing in Australia. So the brother flew in from the U.S. to help in the Jesus drama. They're doing a Jesus drama. It's a movie. And the brother hung himself right on the set. The brother committed suicide while the film wasn't running, obviously, but he actually killed himself, committed suicide on one of the movie sets. Now, currently in Australia, the Australian government is investigating. I mean, whenever there's a death like that, suicide or whatever, the government's got to come in. Now, I also heard, and a lot of people have been giving me information on this, so I'm just going to go with what I heard. But I do know it did happen. Now, I don't know all the facts about it. I will give you some of it here tonight. But I have heard that the society has brought in psychologists to work with the crew. Now, this is kind of reminiscent of what happened in the last couple of years. Remember that Rust, that movie Western they were making out there in Texas or Arizona or somewhere out there, and a person was shot and killed. I mean, really was investigated. But what is happening now is the people that were on the crew, it's psychologically difficult, to see a person kill themselves and dead on set. And so, this is all starting to leak out now. Of course, the Watchtower, they're not going to have it on their JW News. They're not going to do it at all. So what they're doing is they're trying to keep all the PMEs quiet about this. They don't want them to really, spread the word, because some PMEs actually knew the man that committed suicide. So, I say my thoughts go out to the poor guy and also to the ones who found him. It was a horrible thing. And who found him dead is his wife. How heartbreaking is that? He was very well known. This man was very well known. Apparently, everyone that worked on the set, they knew him pretty well. So it was really a shock to so many people. So I'm questioning the news, and I'm not questioning, but I should say I'm guessing that the news will never really be brought out on the Watchtower, but it's spreading in the Jehovah's Witness world all over Facebook, and some of the social media platforms are spreading like a wildfire. I wish I could really say that I'm shocked by this, but I'm not shocked anymore on what goes on in the Watchtower. I've heard of so many suicides. The mental illness in this organization is running rampant, and the organization can really take the blame for a lot of this, because they put people in severe depression and anxiety. I'm not surprised that this could happen, and it did happen. And may the poor man rest in peace. Yes, Anne-Marie.
Do you think it's possible that this man was already suicidal? The fact that he flew all the way to Australia, the fact that he hung himself on the set, do you think that more than anything he was making a statement?
Well, no, some people do commit suicide and do make a statement. I'm only trying to guess what you're thinking here, Anne-Marie. I mean, if I was to, I'm just speculating and hypothesizing, but maybe he was a PMO. Maybe he's had enough. Maybe, he just driven to the edge of the road here, so to speak. And maybe a lot of his...
I want to know if there was a new doctrine or an old doctrine or something that somebody said that may have triggered his sad omega programming. Let's put it that way.
Well, that could be the case too. Of course, it's all speculation at this time, Pixie. But, I'm not in shock that a person committed suicide. I told you just last week, a family up here in Massachusetts lives right near me. They just had their grandson not too long ago. He's a witness, a strong witness. He committed suicide. His brother earlier committed suicide. And then even the father had a suicide attempt. So this is in one family, one family. Yeah.
How tragic. Well, but the thing is that this brother is flying into another country and a new group of witnesses to work with them on a film. So what did he learn? What did they say? What was what was his impulse, I guess is my question. And maybe we'll never know.
No, but you don't know what really can deeply disturb someone. And at this point, of course, anybody could only guess. But if you, I think in fact, what you're raising here is something that I think about from time to time. You can only live a double life so long. You can only be a PMO so long. Now, I'm not telling all those PMOs listening in that you got to leave today. I wouldn't do that. Sometimes there's extenuating circumstance. Maybe you're renting a home or an apartment from a Jehovah's Witness and you become an apostate, you're kicked out of your house. Maybe you're working for a Jehovah's Witness. You could lose your job if you become an apostate. So there's extenuating reasons why you have to be a PMO. But I'll tell you what, the mental torment that PMOs must be going through. They know darn well this organization is a crock of baloney. At the same time, you got to portray yourself as, oh, I'm goody two-shoe witness. That is going to be an emotional roller coaster. That's going to be tough. Now, you might be able to handle it for a little bit, but I know if this goes on for a while, something's going to crack. Something's not going to be right. You can't live a double life. You can't. You can only be one person. You can't be two persons. So this could be something that is creating suicides too. Maybe they're going to exacerbate as the world goes on here because more and more PMOs are really in a dilemma. I got information from one just a couple of weeks ago, an elder who was the Watchtower study conductor. And he mentioned he doesn't want to be a witness anymore. But it's making him so hard. Here he is conducting the Watchtower. He doesn't believe a word the Watchtower says, but he's going to get up there on Sunday and conduct the Watchtower. And he says he can't, it's making it so hard for him. He mentioned that his wife is a staunch witness. His kids are witnesses. What does he do? Imagine the dilemma. But I mean, you don't kill yourself. Don't do that. But some people probably do. Yeah.
When we went out in service, stuff like that, they would teach us to overcome the objection. Okay, now they get that in our head. Overcome the objection, overcome the objection. Now we have an objection. Hey, why isn't Armageddon gonna, you were saying all this time that Armageddon, now what they're trying to do is softly, just very softly, tell you Armageddon's not gonna come in your lifetime to overcome the objection. They're using their own thing that they very much brainwashed us with to use upon them so that we give them an easier way out. No, we're not doing that, Watchtower. Not no more.
Oh, you're right,
Amen.
Marty. Yeah, amen to that, Marty. Thank you. I wanted to bring up too, at one time, if you committed suicide and you were one of Jehovah's Witnesses, you could not have a service in the Kingdom Hall. A memorial service for you. For a normal, in good standing witness, you have a memorial service in the Kingdom Hall. But at one time, if you committed suicide, no funeral service for him or her. But now the Watchtower has changed their position on this. They have now permitted, the Watchtower has now permitted funeral talks for suicide victims. Now, I wonder why they made that change. And, there's so many. How could you sleep at night being a governing body member? There's so many people there's people listening to this program tonight, many of them, that have had close friends, even relatives, die because of suicide. So.
Do you think maybe he got to Australia and they handed him the script and he didn't believe a word of it?
I thought about that, Pixie. I really, really did. I mean, maybe this man started studying the Bible on his own. And he says, I'm supposed to be in this Jesus movie, and I'm supposed to say that. That never happened. That's a falsehood. Maybe he thought it was just too much for him. We don't know what runs through a person's mind. Sometimes it doesn't have to be a monumental issue. Sometimes it can be just a small little thing that can really put a person over the edge. Doesn't have to be some monumental issue. That's a good thought, Pixie. Who knows, right?
Rick?
Yes.
All
Hello, there's Donnie here.
Yes, Donnie.
I'm just thinking about this poor brother that maybe before he went to Australia, maybe he thought, oh, I'll just do some research into how the JWs are doing in Australia and that, and he came across the Australian Royal Commission. I mean, that's bad enough, isn't it, to learn about how they hide, protect paedophiles and they disfellowship the victims and their families. But then if he watched the footage as well, and there's Jeffrey Jackson saying it's presumptuous to say that we're the only ones that are representing God. I mean, even that line can just finish you off, isn't it? Because it's the opposite to what we were taught, from the very beginning. So that can actually make people go over the edge. I mean, I'm very sorry that he did that, but that could be a reason.
Well, very well could be, Donnie. See, we don't know, but all I know is this. I mean, of course, he'd be a Bethelite, from what I understand. But normal Bethel projects or work duty is already stressful. But imagine being an actor for the Jehovah's Witness organization. I mean, you better get it right. Oh boy, I'll tell you, the pressure. I mean, it's hard enough. You guys ever do any acting at all? I mean, you have to memorize your lines. You got to use the right facial expressions. I mean, being an actor is not an easy thing. It's a very stressful thing. Look at all the actors in Hollywood. Look at those guys. A good many of them are on drugs. Not all. A good many of them are alcoholics. Why? Because it's stressful. So we have a Jehovah's Witness, from what I gather, Bethelite actor, going to Australia. The press is going to be really, really big. And I have to imagine that this movie set really created stress. I mean, my wife Susan, remember they used to do these dramas at the conventions? Well, Susan, she played, oh boy, now it's just on the tip of my tongue. Who's the harlot woman there that, I tell you, if Susan's listening, maybe she'd tell me, but Susan played her, and how she was thrown out the window. Who was that? I can't think of the name offhand. Who was it? Isabel. Jezebel, right. I'm sorry, Jezebel. I knew it when I started thinking about it, but then I forgot it. But yeah, Jezebel. Susan played her. And boy, I'll tell you, the stress that was on Susan, that's just a drama at a convention. But you can imagine the stress of doing one of these multi-million-dollar jobs for the Watchtower in one of their movies. It cost them that much money to produce, too much.
I think for the Bethelites, can be stressful. I mean, they work to death anyway. But I know in England, I don't know, about 5 or 6 years ago, maybe more, the circuit overseer told me that a Bethelite had just, at Bethel, just gone to the roof and jumped off. So, it's pressure, I suppose.
Oh, yeah, that's a fact. In fact, Barbara Anderson, we all know her as a really credible person. She came on the Watchtower. She has her own program here on the 6 Screens. And she talked about that one night, how, but the Watchtower covers it all up, just like they're going to cover this up. They don't want the word to get around that, a person committed suicide in the organization. That because they're supposed to be the happiest people on the planet. Why would you want it out that people are committing suicide left and right,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a shame, isn't it? Anyway, thank you. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Donnie. Always good to hear from Donnie from London. Thank you very much, Donnie. Well, you were on 6 Screens, JW World News. That's the news.
Hi, Rich.
Who's this?
This is Apostle Linda James.
Well, hello, Apostle Babe.
Hi, I wanted to make a comment. It's really sad to hear about this person committing suicide. And as we know, we have a high level of people that do commit suicide within this organization. And I've read stories, I've heard stories. A lot of times it does have to do with this organization. but I want to bring up something else that sometimes can lead to suicide, and that could be a medication change. If many of the Jehovah's Witnesses are on, different medications, and if there's a medication change or adjustment, which happens every so often, your doctor will, have you take maybe 10 more milligrams of this or that, something maybe you're already taking, or changing the brand of a medication you're taking. Sometimes it will give a very bad negative reaction. Like sometimes people will become hostile on a certain medication that they're on, or suicidal. You've heard on all these commercials on TV that you hear may cause suicidal thoughts, So I don't know if he was on medication. I don't know if there was an adjustment, but that's a possibility that came up for me in my mind. And it's just something to keep in mind when you start a new medication or there's an adjustment. The psychiatrist, which is who prescribes medication, a psychiatrist, not a psychologist, they are to be called upon 24/7. And if they're not available, they have somebody else that is a psychiatrist available that you can speak to if you notice any changes at all. So if somebody ever gets a medication change and they're just feeling really off, definitely call your doctor. That's what they set up, because they know that this could happen. And I don't know if that's what happened to this brother, but I just wanted to bring up that's a possibility.
Well, thank you, Linda, because I didn't think of that. That's a different angle too. No, that is an issue. You hear those commercials on TV. It's always if you have suicidal thoughts or you don't feel well in your mind, to make sure you check with your doctor. Well, thank you for bringing that up. I never thought of that, but it could have been that. We don't know, and perhaps we'll never know. But I'll tell you what. It's got to be mad. In fact, I'll tell you, it's going to be bad for people that do suffer from mental anxiety. Physical sickness is one thing, but to suffer mentally and in your head, it's just reverberating whatever is going on in there, making it worse and worse. Our heart goes out for people like that. And it'd be good if you could just flip a switch, flip a switch and turn it off, but you can't. No.
Dr. Bergman is somebody who is a famous Jehovah's Witness psychiatrist who has put out studies. I believe the last one was in 75. And in his experience, he talked about Jehovah's Witnesses being very high in taking meds and suicides and stuff. But what's interesting is that I want to bring out is, from what I've learned from my studies, and I'm simply a hairdresser. I grew up as a Jehovah's Witness. I'm not a doctor, but trauma is very much related to mental illness. So it's not uncommon when you hear about people starting to have panic attacks and they become agoraphobic, or they have clinical depression and they don't know why. Well, we were traumatized all the time within this organization, and that, might be a base of some of that. Again, we have a documented things from reputable doctors that have confirmed that. And I tend to think, even for myself, I had a nervous breakdown at the age of 16, and since then, I've not been the same. And I really believe it's due to trauma, since I've learned what trauma can cause. And what's really interesting too is trauma can be used to get you to bond with a perpetrator, or a cult leader, or a cult, or an abusive partner. Trauma can be used to get you to trauma bond with them. Isn't that gnarly? It seems like you want to just get the hell away from them, and some people do, but there's this other phenomenon that happens called trauma bonding, very similar to Stockholm Syndrome. Remember that situation where there was a bank robbery and the people that worked at the bank, when they all got out, days later, these people in the bank really cared about this bank robbery. And the people were just mind-boggled. They had to re-look at things to find out why that was the case. Like, they actually cared about these people that came in and robbed the bank. Stockholm Syndrome.
Yeah, well, Linda,
I think
that's
I'm going off.
well, no, that's fascinating. You bring that all up, and it can psychologically it can be damaged by being one of Jehovah's Witnesses
Yes.
or being in any cult. In fact, we had Dr. Bergman. I believe he's been on 3 times on the 6 screens in years gone by, and I remember one night he was telling us it's in his book too. He wrote the book Jehovah's Witnesses and the Problem of Mental Illness. And Dr. Bergman mentioned in the book and on our program that Jehovah's Witness religion has 4 times the level of mental illness in the organization than any other religion. So what you said is sensible and truthful. People can actually have all kinds of trauma brought into their life by being involved with this organization.
Hey, Rick.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm really glad to hear that they got rid of the teaching of not having a funeral if somebody committed suicide.
Yeah, they're now leaving it up to the elders. But I can't imagine an elder would be so cruel not to do it. Geez, if your son committed suicide, and you go to the elder, can we have now the Watchtower says that he can make the decision, but who would be that cruel? My goodness, treat it as a mental illness. Really, let's have a service for your son. But there might be some elders that won't do it. Thank you, Apostle Babe. Thank you. Yes, go ahead. You're on with me. Go ahead. Thank you.
I just wanted to relate a quick experience before Apostle Babe jumps off.
Yeah.
About the point that she made about how trauma is induced by this organization. One of my earliest memories, my father was still a witness, and my father was only a witness for a couple of years. So we got all dressed up. I didn't know why. And we had food, and we went, and there were a bunch of witnesses there. Everybody was crying, and it was really somber. I had no idea what the hell was going on as a little kid. And I just kind of, I was a daddy's boy, so I just hung out with my dad. But what I learned is that there was a teenage son, and I do remember him, and he had committed suicide. Didn't know what that meant, but I realized later that he was deceased. But the topic for conversation, and we were at the home of the parents of this poor kid that killed himself, teenager. And the topic for conversation was whether or not he was going to be able to have the funeral at the Kingdom Hall. And of course, I couldn't process that as a little kid, but thinking about it now, and especially with what Apostle Babe said, can you imagine being a parent, your kid commits suicide? These so-called witnesses are supposed to be the most loving Christian organization on the planet, come to your house and they're sitting there kind of gossiping underneath their breath about whether or not the funeral is going to be at the Kingdom Hall. What kind of an organization would put a limit, like you just said, and not allow you to have the funeral at the very place where you're supposed to be worshiping God and you're supposed to receive the support from your so-called brothers and sisters, and all they can sit there and talk about is whether or not the funeral is going to be at the Kingdom Hall. This organization, the more we talk about this, I can't even put into words how demonic you have to be. Well, that's the biggest topic for conversation, is whether the funeral can or can't be held in a Kingdom Hall. And if I remember correctly, that funeral was not, in fact, at a Kingdom Hall. That was held at a funeral parlor because of Watchtower. Then couple that with the fact that, can you even grieve properly the loss of your child as they committed suicide when you're a part of this organization? Are you even allowed to grieve when a kid has committed suicide? Then you get into, are they going to be resurrected? Well, I don't think they're going to be resurrected if they kill themselves. I don't think Jehovah's going to bring them back. All at a time when what you should be doing is supporting that family as humanly possible. And you're just sitting there adding more and more trauma. This organization is awful, Rick.
It's like adding more salt to the wound. Like adding more salt to the wound. Yeah. Hey, Rick.
It's awful. You're right. Yeah, go ahead. Who's this?
This is Jeff.
Jeff, how are you?
Pretty good. How are you, Rick?
I'm good. Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention, when I left, I was having anxiety attacks, hyperventilating, passing out. And there was times I thought I'd died, you know, and I'd woke up because I hyperventilated when I passed out. That's how terrible it was. And
I experienced that too. That's scary.
Yeah, it is. And you know, I'd hear a big bang or something, I'd be terrified to watch the news if I heard something about peace and security, you know. And I just wanted to mention there was a 13-year-old boy in the congregation that I went to that just went absolutely bonkers. He just went nuts because they were shoving this religion down his throat. And he just went crazy. And I mean, they were beating him and everything else. His parents, they were witnesses, and he started attacking everybody. He was fighting them, and they finally called the police, and they had him so upset and crazy. You know, with this religion, he was fighting they handcuffed him at that age, and this is in the 80s. He was biting chunks out of the back of the seat of the car. That he was so that's how bad this organization did his mind. They you know, he just went crazy. They just shoved this crap down his throat, and it's terrible. It's just terrible, and I'm sorry you had anxiety attacks and like I did, and hyperventilate, possibly. I mean, it's horrible, just terrible. And I would go and I'd go to a therapist or a psychiatrist. I was afraid to say what was really wrong because I was bringing reproach on Jehovah's name, you know, and it's a horrible organization. It really is. And they need to be shut down. They really do. Other cults like them need to be shut down. Their doors need to be closed, and their assets and property needs to be confiscated.
Well,
yes, I remember.
Jehovah's Witness causes dysfunction
I'll
in the
just be a
family.
minute. It does. When I was privileged enough to have a show on 6 screens, there was a time when I was going to get on a plane, okay? And it's not uncommon for us previous witnesses or current witnesses to have phobias. And I talked to the audience about it, and, you know, we were leading up to it. I was trying to figure out a way, you know, and I was afraid of these panic attacks where I'd pass out, like what Jeff was just talking about. So when I got back, Jeff was like my biggest cheerleader. He was telling me all about the time he got on a plane. And everybody was just so happy for me that simple things that ordinary people do is very hard for us when we deal with these situations that literally make it hard to function in life, you know? And that was a big deal for me, to get on a plane and go see my daughter and to come back, and yeah, it was great. I got such support from everybody. Thank you so much, Jeff.
Jehovah's Witness causes dysfunction in the family. And what happens is these teenagers and stuff, they lose complete touch with reality. They don't know which way to go. Should I go in the world, or should I go this way or that way? And they're so torn, and they become very depressed. And I've heard of, through my experience of traveling and everything, visiting many Jehovah's Witness families and things, I have heard of several suicides in the family, which is very, very, very sad. But what happens is there's such a dysfunction that's caused in the family by this that everybody's just torn apart. So that's something to focus on. That's what I think. And bless you all.
Well, I'd like to share something. I want to share. I do agree with you, Jeff and Linda, right there on what y'all been saying.
Well, you agree with them, Dallas. Yeah. Did you ever suffer from anxiety by being a witness?
Well, it was more of sometimes it was even it's from the grind of the lifestyle,
Yeah.
and also for the others too, feeling compassion, empathy for others, and
Well, no doubt you're a compassionate man, Dallas, and I'm glad that I'm glad you're on with us here tonight. Thank you for chiming in, saying hello to us. Thank you, Dallas. Yes.
Hello, Rick.
Yes. Go ahead, Susan.
Sometimes too, and I think this has to do with the drug companies. They'll advertise something. You're watching TV and they advertise something and say, "Oh, if you're not doing well on your meds, try this or try that or do this." So they get after their doctors and they say, "Hey, I want to try this or that. I'm not doing well. They said this, that. I looked it up on the internet." The internet can be good, but it can be bad too. And so you can kind of push for new meds and they're not helping, they're hurting. And sometimes too, if you're young and you take meds, they work differently on you when you're younger than they do when you're an older and you're an adult. So let's say you're 16, but you're more like an adult. You might be able to handle the meds. But let's say you're 16 and you're just not handling things well at all, any meds, because you're more like a young person than an adult. So you have to be really careful with things like that and not be so quick to jump from one thing to the next. You have to be very cautious when you take these meds because they make them sound like they're the be all end all and they're going to solve all your problems, but they don't.
Well,
That's my personal opinion.
Well, good admonition, Susan. I'm sure that can help people too. They can mess you up, as Apostle Babe was saying a little bit ago. It can be a problem. Well, thank you, Susan. Thank you very much. Let's go up to Saskatchewan. Yeah, let's go to Saskatchewan. Yes, is that you?
Hi, Rick. Yeah, nice to hear from you. I haven't called in a long time, and I'm enjoying the program very much tonight. It's very good, very informative. I wanted to say, Rick, there was this beautiful young lady. She was an unbaptized publisher, and but she had been suffering mental health problems and such, and she killed herself. She jumped off. There was a bridge in Saskatoon. She jumped off the bridge, and cars were going back and forth, and the cars ran over her. But she was an unbaptized publisher. She was a stewardess, a beautiful young woman. And she killed herself because depression and sadness and mental health issues and who knows what. And anyhow, what really bothered me about it is the family, she gave thousands of dollars to the organization. She was a contributor. She helped out. She cleaned the hall, even though she was unbaptized. She did all kinds of wonderful, nice, kind person. And, but she was suffering mental health issues and she killed herself. Where were these wonderful spirit anointed elders to stop her from that? Where were they? Why did she have to die? Why did they let her get into that situation? Because they are not spirit anointed. They are men that are running a wicked, hateful organization and ruining and destroying innocent people's lives. That's what they're doing. And it's really, really sad to see. And if there's anybody out there that's a Jehovah's Witness and listening tonight, pay attention to this. This is a very truthful program. This is how that organization destroys people's lives. And they're all about money. I just want to know where that elder was that should have helped her and brought her back to her senses and showed her how to heal and save herself. It's disgusting. It's really disgusting what they're doing there. Anyways, that's my point, Rick. And a wonderful person like that, no funeral, no memorial. And her family would have loved to have had a memorial for her and bury her in an honorable way. Doesn't sin, and even the sin of suicide, absolve us? Aren't we absolved at death from that? Doesn't God forgive and doesn't he say the wages of sin pays is death, and that's all done? That's what I believe to be true. The organization has been wrong about suicide, and they always will be wrong, and they're just trying to cover their bases by doing that. My brother, stabbed his wife 27 times. She was in the hospital for 6 months. He got 4 years in prison for it. Yet, also, he beat my mother, and I had to pull him off my mother one time, and I laid a licking on him like you wouldn't believe. And I said, you never, ever hit my mom. And he hit my mom, and I fixed his wagon. He never laid a hand on her again. They gave him, this wicked, drug-addicted, drunken asshole, they gave him a beautiful memorial funeral. What a disgusting thing to give a man like that a good funeral, a memorial, and everything. But this wonderful person gets no funeral. It just goes to say how sick, hateful, and twisted this organization is. That's all I have to say, Rick. Loving the show tonight. Thank you, Rick.
Oh, you're very welcome, boy. That's something else. That's quite the story you just told there, and that really should wake people up. That this organization isn't here to help you; they hurt you, and deliberately. That is satanic. What person listening to this program would deliberately want to hurt people? That's something wrong with that. That's not human. Hey, you run with us. Who wants to speak up? Go ahead. You're with us. We got a lot of people on the line. Go ahead.
This is a positive, and I just want to this. Elders are not equipped. They have not been trained to have solutions for people that are maybe alcoholics or having suicidal thoughts. 9 times out of 10, the advice is do more studying, read more literature, and go out and service more. They're really like, I know you just said, like, as if they do it on purpose, and how can they be so cruel on purpose? That could be the case, but they're also just not equipped as a therapist or a psychiatrist would be. So I just want to encourage people when they're going through times to check into seeing a therapist or check into seeing a psychiatrist. They've actually been trained to do these things. And an ordinary pastor, part of his training is to learn how to deal with different personalities, different cultures. Elders do not get to be trained in that area. They're trained how to use the elders book.
When you go to the Kingdom Hall, they put you in a position. And they give you like a ministerial service. You might just be a publisher, or you might be an elder. And that you take that position and you comprehend that the best way you can, but nobody has a clue really what to do. But they give you that position, and at the same time, they take away your identity. They keep you so busy. How are you going to be an elder that has any compassion for anybody? I mean, there are elders that have had compassion. We know that, and we want to have compassion, but it takes that away from you. They keep you so busy, and you can't really blame the elder. You got to almost go beyond the whole congregational thing and just take it right to the organization and say that. It's just, again, it's a big business thing. They don't care about anybody, really. And we're just down here discussing all this stuff because we're suffering.
Well, no doubt. I mean, no doubt of people listening into the program, and they have no idea who Jehovah's Witnesses are. They say, all those people there, they're making this up. They're just disgruntled former witnesses. Friends, we are not disgruntled former witnesses. We all have a story to tell. And you put us all to the test. This organization is one of the wickedest, if not the most wicked cult in America. Really, when you stop and think about it, and they come to you in the name of Christianity. Wow. Okay. Yes, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I would need to please reiterate my original comment. You know, so many suicides have happened because of the Watchtower, and it usually happens in relative silence. This man, I do believe, already planned what he was going to do. He didn't know if he'd go through it, perhaps, but for him to go all the way to his place in Australia to perform in that movie and to hang himself in such a public way that could not be ignored, to me, he was making a statement. People who commit suicide don't commit suicide because they want to die. They commit suicide because they can't live what they've been living with anymore. And for the Watchtower to say they're going to send psychologists, we know there are many psychologists who are dedicated to serving the Watchtower. So they're going to say whatever makes the Watchtower look good, and to make that poor man probably look like he had lost faith in Jehovah and don't be like him. To me, this was a deliberate statement. Thank you, Rick.
Well, thank you, Anne Marie. My goodness, always good to hear from you. And I'll tell you what, folks, when you listen into the six screens and you hear all the people calling in from pretty much all over the world, it really solidifies, it makes it credible that the Jehovah's Witness organization does not do anything to make you a better person. Seriously, it just destroys lives, hurts people, and that's why I want to bring it to this. I want to tell you that I'm going to play an AI video that was just made today. In fact, just finished up today. We're trying to do one a week here at the six screens. With AI, artificial intelligence, you can really bring stories to life. And my daughter Jamie's been working with me on this project, and we're trying to bring stories to life about the Watchtower organization, the founder, Charles Russell, and some of the occultic practices the Watchtower has been involved in. So what I want to do is I want to play you. I haven't put this up on Facebook. I have not put this up on YouTube yet. You're seeing it for the very first time. The other two already have gone viral. Basically, we got so many people watching them on YouTube Shorts and on Facebook Reels. But let me just get this up here right now for us. Let me share this screen because I want you to see this video. It really is amazing. Now, this has to deal with Charles Taze Russell dying on that train in Pampa, Texas, and what he wanted to be dressed up in when he was dying. And this is right out of the Watchtower. This isn't anything that we're making up or trying to embellish. This is right in the Watchtower writings where we got this information. So let me just get in here and see where we have to go with this. All right. I'm going to share this. I want you to see it. This is our newest AI. We're trying to make one of these a week, and they're going to be put up on the six screens of the watchtower.com. We're in there revamping that whole website. We're trying to make it as up-to-date as we possibly can. So let's share this right now. This is Charles Taze Russell on that train coming out of Texas. Here it comes now. Let's play it. I'm going to make a big screen here so you can see it better. All right, let's do it.
Even the night of his death, the veracity surrounding Charles Taze Russell was revealed, as Jehovah's Witness theology rests on pagan practices and spiritual uncertainty. In a discourse from 1913, Russell exalted Freemason beliefs and their teachings to the extent of using Masonic images within his own publications. Russell pompously alluded to those within this divine masonry, including himself, as the only ones with spiritual insight. The Masonic symbol of the winged sun disk graced the covers of many early Watchtower publications. Of monumental interest is that the Watchtower Society inadvertently noted that this Egyptian symbol is idolatrous, with no mention of the fact that it graced the covers of early publications. Masonic and pagan connections saturated the early history of the Watchtower Society, including the night of Charles Taze Russell's death. On Halloween night in 1916, when traveling back from his ministerial tour, Russell died in the train car. as a result of multiple ailments. Russell's last request was to be wrapped in a Roman toga, using Pullman sheets. Buried in Rosemont United Cemetery in the outskirts of Pittsburgh. A 9-foot stone pyramid, with Watchtower Bible and Tract Society, and the Masonic symbol engraved on its side, lies adjacent to his gravestone. The Watchtower Society removed it in 2021, as it contradicted later Jehovah's Witness teachings, distancing themselves from the origins of their founding father and theology that does not come from the God of the Bible.
Well, that's it. That's the AI video. And I have to tell you, that's really working. We're going to put that up on YouTube in the next few hours, as well as Facebook. Now, let me tell you a little bit about what we're trying to do here. I've always believed this, and I've mentioned a few times here in the 6 Screens. It's very difficult to get a Jehovah's Witness out of their religion. They build a firewall around it. When they get a teaching, they don't want to hear anything that an apostate, so to speak, has to say. It's very difficult to enter their atmosphere. But I believe that simple little pitches can help people. Well, let me put it this way. People remember in pitches. People, they reason in pitches. And people move to action in pitches. So what my daughter and I and Susan working along with me too in this project, as others, we're trying to really create some really effective artificial intelligence. Now, we do our research. We try to make it as clear as we can and as informative as we can. And so far, so good. We haven't got any complaints really about it. Well, the first one we did with Maria Russell and Charles, and how he called himself a jellyfish. Well, Maria Russell, we call her Maria, but some people call her Mariah. But I mean, that's a small thing, right? So, but sometimes it's hard to get it exactly right. But we're working trying to do this, and hopefully these little images, these little AI video clips will help witnesses leave the Watchtower. So already it's helping. I got word this week from a person evidently that was in the Watchtower and saying how this is just amazing. He's never heard this before. So if you can just get a person to see one little flaw, then he'll be looking forward now to the next one. So people are subscribing to our channel. Now, if you want to see more of these things, I'm going to put them up first on the 6 Screens of the Watchtower Facebook group. So if you're listening in tonight, join, if you already haven't, join the Facebook group 6 Screens of the Watchtower, and you'll get all the information you need. And all of these ex-witnesses are posting in there as well. And of course, check in with our website from time to time too, 6screensofthewatchtower.com. And friends, if you guys really like what we're doing here every Saturday night, why don't you subscribe to the channel? Now, the channel right now is not monetized. I'm not making a penny on it. This thing costs me upwards of $500 a month just to be able to do these programs. But I want to do it to help you. It's not monetized. There's no money going in my pocket. But subscribe to the channel. It'll help way more people come to learn what's going on behind the curtains of the Watchtower. Well, I want to thank everyone for coming on tonight. And I will leave the phone lines open. We have telephone lines. There's close to 30 people on it right now. If you'd like to converse with them, you're not going to be on the air. No one's going to hear you. But I'll leave the telephone lines open if you'd like to talk to one another. In fact, quite a bit have been doing it lately. And you can talk to the Goats Come Home in our telephone network here tonight. So I want to, again, thank you for coming in. Those who commented, I appreciate it. I really appreciate you wanting to spend some time with us here on Saturday night. We've been doing this for a long time, and it's really my pleasure, and all the people that call in's pleasure as well, to share their thoughts with you on what really goes on behind the curtains of the Watchtower. So please, the last one leaving the Watchtower, please turn off the new light. Come in tomorrow, begin at 1 o'clock, 6 Screens Sunday, 1 o'clock tomorrow, right here on the 6 Screens Telenetwork. Thank you, everyone, and good night.